Hello, and welcome back to Divas, Diamonds, and Dollars podcast. We empower career women, business owners, and late bloomers with the tools and strategies for living a bolder, fuller life. Each week, we bring you key success principles on leadership, personal finance, and business. Follow us to get ahead and succeed at a higher level. Folks, we are your hosts, Larisa Troche and,
I am Cecilia Benford.
oh, you know what? I think. Huh. It really feels like a coin toss sometimes, doesn't it? You throw your hat in the ring, and if the fates are kind, you might come out on top. Other times, in the immortal words of fictional Maxwell Smart, you missed it by this much. And so it's choice time, right? Or do you go or do you stay? What should you do while you mull your options? Well, I will have to just confess that other than my time in the military, I cannot recall one job where the promotions were given in a way that, what was it called? Transparent is a new word we're using this day. So, clear, thought out, something procedural, like there was a plan other than, hey, I like the way you look today. You get this one, right? I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know. Has that been your experience? I know you worked in government, so maybe it was much clearer for you.
Yes. And the government, to be specific about government, in my case, since it was the defense part of the government, it's very militaristic. And in fact, so much so that uh, as a contracting specialist, we would call airmen as well. So it would be more like what you're used to, how they tried to align the two parties together, the leadership growth. It was based on a military pattern.
Keyword being there was pattern, not, I don't want to say favoritism, but the insiders, right? So if you have ever been passed over or seen others get promoted when they've got nothing on you, it can be, yeah, right? I think that's the word we're looking for. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but there's no need to feel powerless. So we feel like, the bounce back equation gives you a path forward if you decide to reset and remain where you are.
Keywords reset and remain. So I'm not going to give any horror stories about what you just said, but notwithstanding this so-called prescriptive or procedural or pattern, that doesn't mean favoritism doesn't pop in. And I'm here to tell you, I've been on the end of this point of the spear, if you will. So, um, and it is painful. It is something that you have to go sit in the corner, sulk a little bit. Um, but me and you, we're all about resetting and remaining. And I suppose as we talk through this, I'm never going to let anybody get the best of me in terms of some people just give up. We don't give up, right, Larisa? But anyway, so we're talking about building a new framework because it's real. I know it's real. I've talked to people, I've counseled people who said, I quit. No, I'm not going to put myself through that. I know it's hard. So anyway, sometimes you make your pitch, and for whatever reason, the stars are not aligned for you today. And that's the easy way to say it, perhaps. So, I had to get my little personal stuff out of the way because this does bring back thoughts and memories. So I was getting ready to go down a little different path, but it does sting big time, and thoughts of jumping ship may flood your mind, but why not let cooler heads prevail? Let's weigh your options step by step. This is the reasonable me speaking and how I would speak to somebody else. Six moves to make when you need to regroup after a career setback. And I was also thinking about probably the last person I truly counseled that was of deep meaning because, I mean, she was kind of one of my favorite supervisors. So she came, she was in this situation of she didn't get the promotion. Okay. So I say all that to say, yes, I have experience for what you're talking about. So, as I was getting ready to say about building a new framework, think about it. Framework, it is an opportunity, right? And any opportunity is a learning opportunity. So, take stock of the situation and modify your approach as necessary. Everything that may happen, and even that somebody may say may not be the thing that needs to be modified, okay? But you may need to start from scratch, or maybe you just need to tweak a few things. Start by laying out your approach in enough detail to know what your next move should be for your situation. I think that's also key. That's why I'm emphasizing it. So often we want to do what somebody else has done. Doesn't work. It may not work for you. So the first thing is ask yourself, are there other opportunities that would satisfy you? Sometimes, we go for something that may not really have been for you. It just seemed like that's what you should do because of where you were and because you've been working in this particular area so long, or you're good, a lot of the things. But you know what? Sometimes you're just really not satisfied where you are. So consider that. How about changes or adjustments you need to make to qualify later? Now, I think that I would tell you the first time that happened to me, this was not the first thing I thought about. Why? Because I thought I was prepared, quite frankly. And so it's better than to make changes or adjustments, in my mind, is better than always comparing yourself with others. We live in a compare yourself uh, society, whether it's physically, mentally, how many influencers you have. Hey, I did this outstanding effort. That person didn't do what I did. Now I'm here to tell you, Larisa, you've been there, right? You know how it is to talk about they don't even have the skills. What do you mean I didn't get
Mhm.
this? Right?
Oh, you know, that was a very recent conversation, so I'm gonna go ahead and what's this? I'm gonna leave that one alone. Uh-huh,
That's
uh-huh.
right. Yeah. So then the third thing to look at is, do you want to create your own opportunity? And I vet this with other people, because you have to, to thyself be true. And so I'm going to say, before you really, put the lid on anything, you must look in the mirror. And sometimes we don't like looking in the mirror because that means we do have to assess ourselves, right? We have to be to thy own self, be true. So if you can create your own opportunity, hey, that's a great feeling. Although it has its own issues, in terms of strategic planning and all the things that are associated with that. So that's, one thing. But whatever you do, don't be overly narrow in your approach to what's possible. I think sometimes we can shortchange ourselves, and I would put that in the fear category. What do you think, Risa? Do you think that's really the reason that happens or something else?
Fair lack of confidence. I mean, kind of two sides of the same coin, but or maybe, like I said, or you just said, you need to create your own opportunity because others can't see what's not there. And
Mhm.
sometimes, you have the skill set, a change is needed, and you create a position that didn't exist and you flesh it out, and maybe that's one way to move ahead. It's what is it called? A fork in the path. Is that right? A fork in the path. And
Mhm.
so you go left, you go right, you pick the best one. I I ever have I always been this optimistic? I don't know. I think again, this is a whole learning situation. The older you get, the you know what, the brighter you get, and you can see things. a little bit differently. And so I think that's part of growing up. Much as I fought it, I think I've grown up a lot in these last few years, let me tell you.
Mhm.
Good, bad, and indifferent. Back to the matter at hand. Number two, we want you to open a thoughtful dialogue. And the one thing that I didn't actually spell out, but I mean, it's so critical. Sometimes when we get a disappointment, we don't behave well. So I will just begin by saying, do not burn any bridges.
Oh, yes.
Do
That's
not
my number
burn any
one
bridges. That
advice.
should
Yeah,
have, yes. So we want you to
absolutely.
open a thoughtful dialogue. And you know what? Sometimes I'll be in the midst of asking a question, and even before I finish spelling out all the details, I managed to come up with the answer, right? Suddenly it all seems so clear. And I would
Mhm.
say so it goes with problem solving and it's applicable here. Sometimes you need to talk things through. And the light bulb moment goes off and you can move forward. So I'm going to suggest you talk it over with a trusted advisor. There should be a coach or a mentor and not your BFF because that's your girl. She loves you. And she's probably a big fan and not really going to be what's called objective. Sometimes
Mhm.
some of them will,
Mhm.
but not always. So if you have, we recommend that you have a mentor, coach, someone that you can talk to about the hard things, as they say, right?
Mhm.
And I'm also going to suggest that you draft your talking points before you meet. Writing things out, I tell you, getting it on paper is so important. Uh, it provides clarity and it helps ensure that you don't forget any key points. So have those thoughtful dialogues, those important conversations, gives you some cool down time, gives you some thinking time, and it prevents you from burning any bridges. So critical. And frankly, while you're doing this, you need to understand what's truly at stake. So, I mean, we get it. Losing out really burns. However, a setback is just that. It's likely just a temporary detour. It is not a forever thing. Not always, not unless you make it that way. So, pride aside, what are the most important matters to consider as you ponder your next move? There are a lot of variables to everyone's situation, so perhaps we invite you to consider, just think about your tenure. How long have you been with your employer? And how long do you plan to stay? So this kind of, I would say, determines I don't know why, I know why it's puppy brain, but that determines how much fight is left in the dog. So also think about your position. Are you mid or upper management? What is the realistic career trajectory at your company? This one's important. How much influence do you have in your department or beyond? Right? Will people support you? Do they speak highly of you? Do they know about your skills and abilities? And you know what else is important? Your finances. Do you have attitude money on hand? Can you afford to quit right now? So don't be a hothead and just be jumping ship.
Mhm.
And that's how folks get behind because they just do things impulsively.
Yes.
And let me just overshare for a minute because I will say that yours truly had a previous employer, and as I stated in the opening, is that they appear a little cliquish in their approach to promotions. And despite doing excellent work, she said, I had a less than stellar supervisor. She was young, overworked, and frankly unclear on how to supervise and advocate for her team. So I raised my hand only to be swatted down. And I was like, okay, I need a minute. I just didn't know how to respond, but I did respond. And that is when I began to actively search for another job because when they're saying, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z, I have done all the things. Were you not paying attention? Um, so there's really no such thing as keep your head down and do good work. You'll be rewarded. That was once upon a time in fairy tale land. Speak up for yourself and make other arrangements if there's no opportunity for growth. Now, we're talking about what do you do if you have a setback, you decide to stay, but sometimes oh, you've given them all their chances, and at some point you have to pull the trigger. You don't want to just be angry or disappointed all the time.
Yeah, before you go on, if it's okay. So you made me think about another thought, things you have addressed too. one, about don't burn bridges, and two, um, about someone who is your supervisor but not as qualified. So I had a situation where I was put in the acting position, acting role for, the chief of whatever. And I did this for 10 months. And they brought in a person younger, not as qualified. And there was other people were pretty, bothered about this situation. Not just me, really bothered. And so and they left. They left. But I didn't leave at that time. And one thing that occurred because I ended up working for this person, in the position that I had been, the chief. But he became an advocate of mine. So that's what I want to talk about. Sometimes you stay in a situation and not burning bridges, you can be rewarded because he had to go to bat for, whatever the reasons were. So I just wanted to share that with you. As you said this earlier, all these situations are not the same. Sometimes it just depends, right? So, okay.
Oh, it definitely all depends.
Yeah.
And so that's why we just want to provide this framework on how to pencil it out and think it through before you make a decision. I mean,
Hmm.
most times you don't have to make an instant decision. Instant decisions aren't always good. There's some thinking that needs to go on, some planning, some plotting. No, I'm just kidding. Some planning that you need to do.
Hmm.
So, and that brings me kind of to my next point, which is negotiate for what really matters. Now, flex time is such a hot topic, but that's not really what we're talking about necessarily, although that's important, quality of life. Depending on the situation, you might be able to ask for something else. If you don't get option A, is there an option B? What can, what is the situation at your employer? You may not feel ready to do so in the moment. However, so take some time to think and arrange a meeting to discuss your future with the company. So, this no over here isn't a global no necessarily. So just kind of breathe, right? And, while you're thinking and making your talking points, find out why you didn't actually get the promotion or the new job. Are there specific steps you must take, such as skills you must acquire beforehand, for example? I mean, ask the questions. Not, no, I just don't like what you're wearing today. It's like, well, this, and this. And then, or maybe they just don't actually know. You've already done this, and this. Who knows? Ask what your options are. How does the company view your role, your future role with the company? Do they feel that you have, advancement potential? Find out, hopefully, you guys have been having annual reviews and conversations throughout your tenure, but sometimes, like it's already said, we can't just put our head down and think we're going to get noticed and rewarded. So let's have that conversation. So find out why you didn't get the particular job that you were applying for, the promotion, find out what your options are, what the company really thinks about your abilities, and frankly ask when the next opportunity will be available. What is the cycle of promotion at your jobs? Again, I'm still trying to figure that out. It's just people. Presto changeo,
Mm,
announcement, someone's getting another promotion, and you're like, oh, that's so fascinating. So, really
mm,
find out what the culture is at your particular employer. There are questions to ask, and you need to be part of your own plan for your bright future. And speaking of which, what I think this next one is kind of a really logical step.
campaigns, campaign. Anybody campaigning for their position? So we are sort of inundated with campaign news, which i.e. translates to politics. It's politicians, but guess what? Those things happen in our offices. I'm here to tell you, they do. And so as I reflect on this, I'm going to go back again to your statement about not burning bridges. And here's why. Because office politics may be underlying, you may not even know about it, but you never know who, sometimes people are rewarded for they did because they did allow themselves to get passed over. Now that's, those are my words. Sometimes it's just part of the politics of how they want an office to be organized. Who knows, right? Office politics. But when you said, the campaign of asking for the next opportunity, I hope you all follow. All of these are logical steps because they're really real. I'm saying this out of experience. And so when we think about it, sometimes people say, "Oh, I'm not going to be involved in office politics. I don't even care. That's those people." You are involved. Whether you're silent or not, you're involved because people are maybe they're considering you for a different position. You don't know that. And it's really a disturbing dynamic that when you see this, it really is, it can be demoralizing or what have you. But that said, although you're not running for public office, um, interpersonal skills are really important. You can't be the one who keeps their head down. You can't be the one who has a straight face, stony face, and people are wondering what you are thinking because you know what? Sometimes people feel guilty about what they've done, and now you're making them feel guilty, more guilty. Okay? So I believe, or have found for me for sure, emotional intelligence is your superpower. That means you need to not only know yourself, but you need to know how other people think because that's how you get through some things, know how to talk to them. Communication is really important. Assessing the situation and communication, um, and then really everything we're talking about is taking action. You need all three of those things to make something be of benefit to you. And so when you do that, first of all, you feel empowered. You don't have to have someone else empower you, empower yourself by taking these steps, right? Supporters come in many guises, whether it's, sometimes it's your family, sometimes that's sort of the at home, while you're kind of licking your wounds, your friends, you have cheerleaders. You have cheerleaders in the offices too, who really say, oh, Cecilia, wow, I can't believe, or yeah, you would, and blah, blah, blah. So who's going to champion your cause? All of them work. And then I have to put this part in there for me because this is something I learned along the way, and I have said it to others, like-minded people. You know what? Some things are just not for you at that moment, and I prefer to believe that I have a higher power and say, "Okay, God, this is not for you. I got something else for you," which has helped me get through some times. And so, and I've shared that with, one person who really used that, and it's a beginning thought. But then you have to take action. You don't just sit on it, waiting for the sky to fall. And so when you think about that, what are people saying about you when you're not in the room? That's the point of not burning your bridges because people could, you're still an asset, right? You still have unique skills and things you are perfectly capable of. And so what are people not saying about you is super important for, why you're in this zone of waiting, this waiting period. Um, do you, you know, and what has happened sometimes is people decide, you know what? Hey, can I mentor you? I've done that. Can I mentor you? Can I help you? And that has, provided some benefit too. I've seen that in different ways. So, do you know how to win friends? And, at the end of the day, you got to win friends and you have to influence people. Now, some people will say, oh, that's old, that's passe because that's, out of the Dale Carnegie School. Yeah, it still works. It's still really important. I mean, it's really necessary. That's it. That's all I can say. So, what makes you unique or your product? You're not a clone. Whatever group you're in, this is not a monolith. What do you bring to the organization? You have to, talk to yourself about that. Cultivate a solid personal network. You yourself alone are not a network, right? And so external contacts should include, some other industry, similar industries that you could one go to, but also it helps you understand what is going on in your current field. How it works. Say, I'm just going to use the military government. It may be a little different and a different type of work, although it's still about people and what everything's processes, right? And products. So the actual job functions are what matters. So look for skills match more so than a title because a lot of times the titles may not equate, but it really is all about, the type of job duties or functions. Um, and just don't get bogged down in one little thing. So I kind of wanted to kind of beat that a lot. I don't want to use that we talked about, as Larisa said, we haven't talked about it in a while, footstone. But anyway, at the end of the day, our emotions sort of guide what we do. And so we sort of get off the path, and that's why you need, put all this together. Who are you and what do you bring?
And I'm just going to say lastly, it may sound similar. We're talking about campaigning for campaigning. That just means, doing the meet and greeting, establishing and maintaining key relationships. And similarly, you want to engage with your mentors and advisors. Now, we have, you go back through our catalog of episodes, right? We have always recommended savvy career women create a personal board of directors. You Inc., you incorporated, right? Manage your career. Having trusted advisors to guide you can be the support you need to really shine and to grow. And you've already heard the saying multiple times, not from Larisa, but it's a fact. It takes a village. From your personal advisors to your community of supporters, having people on your side can not only help cushion the blow immediately in the aftermath, but it can also be a source for new opportunities. So I'm just going to suggest, I'm going to say this right now, raise the ante. We know that word in poker, raise the ante. But I'm suggesting that it means always network thoughtfully every day. Anytime you're talking about, that's an opportunity for networking. You never know who knows who, or who knows, or who otherwise has the right connection and can make an impactful introduction. So you got to get out of your own silo. You must leave the house. We're how many years? 4 years out of COVID-ish? Okay.
Mm,
I can't say we're out, but you know what I'm saying. Where the doors have opened again, you've got to leave the house and meet and greet for all the reasons, whether it's nurturing your wounds after a setback or not. Uh, you know, there's a book by Harvey McKay. It's an old book, but it's still the title resonates with me. There's dig your well before you need it.
mm.
So raise the ante. Always network thoughtfully every day. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to bring it home because this is an important topic, but because I know it happens to people every day. So much going on.
All right, all right, all right. So hitting reset, that's what we're talking about. Hit the reset button so you can remain, so that you can regroup. Both will buy you time. And of course, while you're doing this, you're, taking your deep breath and Self-care is all of that is important. So you can decide to bloom where you are planted for the short term or the long term. It's your decision. This is just a blip on the radar. It's not the end of your life, so don't dwell on what was. Let that sink in. Don't dwell on what was. Our lives, our careers, our businesses, it's all about onward and upward. That is the order of the day.
Well, I have kind of enjoyed this little combo, so let me just go ahead and leave you with the Divalicious pro tip. It's never too late to proactively manage your career. Season one, I always told you Cecilia was a definition of career management, and I caught on to that a little bit late, but I'm all up in it now. So keeping your goals in sight and your skills up to date will always serve you well. So that's really let you must do that. You can't just look around and wonder what one day and just, well, what happened? Well, how proactively engaged in your own career were you? Okay, all right. So next week, we're wrapping up the bounce back equation series. I hope you've enjoyed it. I thought, it was timely because the world, she is a changing. So we have one last episode to bring you before we move on, and we will see you there, divas. And make sure you stay in touch between episodes. You can always join my free online community on the school platform. Make it, mind it, multiply it. Have a good time, and we will see you next time. Ciao.